Getting started with layers in Photoshop. In this video, I'm going to talk about naming and organizing the layers, how to import and crop and manipulate images, and then a bit about how to save your file. So to begin with, I want to look at how to name the layers. So I'm going to click on the top layer and see what this is. I can see by the little icon that it matches this thing right here. So but just to verify that if I toggle the eye on and off, I can see, yeah, that's definitely that thing right there. It's like a white circle, of course, and I'm just going to call it circle. The next thing is that blue clock thing. I can see that and verify it. Yeah, that's definitely it. It doesn't matter what you name your layers as long as it makes sense to you. I'm just going to call it blue clock. The next thing is that block looking thing right there. I'm just going to call it just block. And then the last thing here is this, obviously this green leafy thing in the background, and verify it. Yeah, definitely that. I'm just going to call that green. So as you're getting dozens and dozens of layers, it can be a really good idea to name your layers, because sometimes you can identify what's what by looking at the little icon, but if you have things that look alike, then it can be a problem, because when you're working on an object, you must be on that layer. Like if I were to do something to this object, I would need to be on that layer. So let's say that I wanted to just have that white circle and not the green and the brown filled around it. I can get a circular marquee by clicking the circular marquee, of course, which I've done, but I can keep my round proportions by holding down the shift key. And I'm keeping my round proportions, and I'm kind of just guessing this a little bit, and that's going to be good enough for what I want to do. And so to keep just the white and the yellow circle and get rid of all this on the outside, I can go to the keyboard and hit Control Shift and then hit the I key, and that inverts my selection. Then I can hit Delete, and then I've gotten rid of that. So that's one way of doing that. And now I can just click in any space where I don't have a selection to get rid of my selection, or I can right click and hit deselect, however I want to do that. The next thing here is this blue clock. Now you can see with this blue clock I've got this white that's attached to the background of that. So if I want to get rid of that, I can go to the magic wand tool. The magic wand will select similar tones of color, and the white, of course, is all consistently white. Now if there was some gray in here, it wouldn't necessarily know where to stop my selection, but I feel pretty confident it's going to just select the white. This is really easy, and this is a really inappropriate time to use the magic wand tool. Then I can hit delete and then just click away to deselect. On this object right here, let's say that I just want this little rock looking thing with what looks like Greek letters on it. I'm going to go to maybe my marquee tool, my rectangular marquee tool, and just select some of this. And I'm making it a little bit wider because I'm going to do something, and you'll see why I'm getting more than I really need. I'm going to do that on the keyboard again, where I go Control Shift I to invert. But I'm making a mistake here, but because I'm on the wrong layer. So I want to make sure I click down to the block layer. Otherwise, I'd be deleting the clock and wondering why that happened. So I'm on the right layer, and I caught myself just in time. Now I want to hit delete, so that works out. And I can just click to deselect that. And now I'm going to just zoom into this, and maybe not that much. I want you to be able to see it in this video. So let's say that I want to get that object into a right angle, and I don't want it in that perspective of that where it's kind of leaned back like that. So I'm going to take actually I'm going to bring out some guides to help me along. And if I don't have the guides set up, I can go into view and look, and if you click rulers. Now I'm kind of deviating from layers a little bit, but you have to do something in Photoshop to demonstrate things, so that's why I'm just kind of showing you some things about manipulating objects. So I've got a nice right angle here, with these little blue guides that pull out. And I'm on the correct layer. So to get this object to the right angles, I might want to go into Edit, Transform, Skew, and then begin to pull these anchor points out. And I'm kind of just eyeballing it, trying to match it up. Without the guides, I wouldn't be doing that as well as I probably could. That looks pretty square to me. I'm going to hit Enter, and now I might want to take my marquee selection tool and just grab down to the corners. You can see it's pretty much at right angles now. So I'm going to do that again into the keyboard with Control-Shift-I to invert my selection, delete. Now I have just that little rock thing right there. And what I can also do in layers is, let's say that I want to do some effects to that object. I'm going to go to that layer, which I'm already there. I'm going to right click, and when I right click on a layer, I get this pull down window. And the most common thing that I use when I go here is something called blending options, because it brings up all of these great tools that you can use, like a drop shadow. And I can't see the tools associated to the drop shadow tool, but if I click on the word drop shadow, then I can see. I'm going to get this a little bit closer so you can see it. As I begin to change some of these things, you can see it makes it a little bit different. So I could add a stroke around it if I wanted to, maybe make that white to make it look like kind of like a graphic if I wanted to. And if I was happy with that, I could hit OK and move it around wherever I wanted. And I'm going to zoom back for a second. And so you're going to see the effects that I applied to that. And if you want to toggle those effects off and see what you originally had, you can do that. One other thing, if you want to import another image into this composition, I've opened another image in Photoshop, and I have it sitting here. It's just this blue shirt. I'm going to hit Control A, that's the Select All hotkey. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to hit Control C to copy it. So Control C, copy it. I'm going to minimize it back into my original document, and then if I hit Control V, it's really big, so I'm going to hit Control T this time. This is Control T to transform. I get these anchor points around the object. If I hold down the Shift key, it'll maintain its proportions, otherwise it does this. So if I just grab the Shift key, it jumps back to its proportion. And I can lay this somewhere and then hit OK. And it's behind that layer. So whatever the way that layers works also is whatever's on top is going to be on top. So right now this circular thing is like the foremost object. So maybe I want to either turn these layers off so I can see what I'm doing with the shirt, or I can take that shirt and bring it to the top layer. And I can do what I did a moment ago with just the magic wand tool, select the white, hit delete, and then be done with that like that. And let's say that I'm happy with this composition and I want to put it into a Word document or some other print document that I'm going to print. There's a little down arrow right here, and if I click on that little down arrow, I can go into these options and click Flatten Image, and this is going to flatten all of my layers. And because I'm doing this for print, I want to save it as a TIFF file, and that is it's going to be an uncompressed TIFF, meaning that I'm maintaining all of my resolution and all of my good quality, and that's generally what you want for a print graphic. And so I've got it flattened, and then I'm going to go into File, Save As. TIFF is already selected, or if you don't see it, it's going to be at the very bottom, and I could save it as something unique like my picture, and then hit save and be done with it. So that's all for layers, and that was just like a basic overview of layers. So